So sometimes I'll make a mini album and then people will ask for a tutorial. So since I don't have that same paper anymore, I'll use different paper. Hi everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Album, and I'm going to show you how I made these two albums. They're basically the same as the graduation album that I made, maybe a week and a half ago. You can check it out in my previous videos. But this is a 4" by 5" mini album. I think the one before was 3.5 by 4.5, but this was the scrap chipboard I had left because not only do I like to use scrap paper, but scrap chipboard as well. Oh, by the way, there are walkthroughs on these in prior videos. If you're watching this on Saturday when this comes out, on Friday and Thursday, you will see these walkthroughs, all listed in the description box. But anyhow, let's get started. Okay, this is a very simple cover. To make the cover, you'll need 2 pieces of chipboard that are 4 by 5 and 1 piece that's 1.5 by 5. You could use either medium weight or heavy weight chipboard. You could use lightweight chipboard, but obviously it's going to be a little flimsier, but that's okay. Sometimes I use it. You know, you get the sheets when they send you paper to help keep it from getting damaged in shipping. And I've already put double-sided permanent adhesive. I get the rolls from scrapbook.com. It's just more economical. A roll of 6" when it's on a good sale will be $30. And I figured that would make, depending on the size of the albums, anywhere from 80 to 100 albums with that. So it lasts a good long time. Now I'm going to do something a little different. I don't usually do this, but some people have commented that they want to make sure they get everything straight. To be honest, to me, it's not a big deal if it's not straight, because you won't see it. But so the width of this is 1.5. So half of that is 3/4. Half of this page is 6 inches. So if I want to, I'll back up. So 3/4 would be at 5.25. So I'm just going to lightly score at 5.25. Now, it's just going to help us line this up. Now, so 1 inch, there should be 1 inch top and bottom. So I'm just eyeballing it and putting it as close to that score line as possible. Now I'm going to take my double-sided permanent 1/4" tape, again from scrapbook.com, but if you want to use score tape, that's fine. Oh, this is score tape, actually. I'm going to put one on one side of that chipboard and one on the other side. Now take the time now to burnish that as good as you can, because you will not get another opportunity to burnish that. All right, and I use this. My bone folder is Dress Your Craft bone folder. I think it's number 2. And it, as you see, it helps me peel that off. Okay, this is a 1/4" score tape. I'm going to put my next piece of chipboard next to that, but I don't want it exactly 1/4 inch away. I want it a little less. So we're going to overlap the edge of the chipboard and that 1/4" score tape. So it's going to be, if I had to give you a measurement, it's probably going to be 3/16, somewhere between 1/8 and 3/16 from the edge of the spine piece. So you'll see I'm overlapping that. I'm trying to make it as parallel as possible, and it is about 3/16 of an inch gap. And I'll push that down. I'll burnish it in just a second, but I'll put this other one down first. So again, about 3/16 away from that piece. And then I'm going to turn this over, and using my bone folder, I'll burnish. And then again, using my bone folder, so it's got this sort of bevel end, I will find the edge of the chipboard. Now it's going to stick a little because of that tape. It's not a big deal. Don't do this on a paper surface, obviously. Okay, and then to make things easy, I am just going to cut across. Now, if you guys have been following me, you'll notice sometimes I make squares and cut out the squares. Sometimes I just cut across. It's whatever mood I'm in. Usually with the smaller ones, I tend to cut across the diagonal and do it that way. Now I'm going to use my surface to help straighten this up, or I'm going to just bend it using the table, and that'll help get a straight line. Now what I'm going to do is, again, because it's small, I don't feel like I need to put score tape here to have it hold down, because this was already coming out, because the Designer Dries Clear Glue from the Art Glitter Company holds my book together pretty well. Now if you feel like you want to use the score tape, you can do that. So I'm going to take my bone folder and push right up against that chipboard piece. You'll notice some glue is smushing out. That's fine. It means that you're going to get nice adhesion to the chipboard edge. And then I'm going to bend it down and just go over it on that very edge of the chipboard so it folds nicely, and burnish. So you'll notice there was glue coming out of there. It's not a big deal. Just clean it up if you can, just so it doesn't make a mess. I'll do the same with this side. So I'll go around the perimeter and zigzag a little. Sometimes I'll even use my ATG gun to hold it. I know that ATG to me is not the most permanent, but it'll hold it while we're waiting for the glue to dry. Okay, again, I'm going to just hit this right at the edge of the chipboard. I'm going to pull it with my fingers and burnish. I know some glue will seep out, and that's okay. Clean it up. All right, and then here I'm going to take my bone folder and just push down right at the edge where that little triangle comes up, and add around this trapezoid shaped piece, and burnish. See, I'm cleaning off my bone folder just because I don't want the glue to get all over if it was going to. All right, push down here, push down there. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. And again, burnish. Add the glue, and now burnish. Alrighty, fold it down. Alright, now I'm going to take my bone folder, and this end, it's got rounded sides. It doesn't have a sharp point to it, which I like that. So I'm going to go very gently in this crevice created by the spine and the cover, and just gently bend it. I'm not pushing too hard. I mean, every time I do it, I push a little bit harder. And then when I've got a little indentation, then I'm going to take the cover and hold it and push here and push here. So this top piece will adhere to the bottom piece. And then fold it and burnish there. So I'll do the same here. And fold it and burnish. All right, so we've got the cover. Now I am going to make a hinge we're going to do a hinge system. If you're not done a hinge before, it's not difficult. We're just going to take it a step at a time. I don't feel the need to cover this, but you can if you want. The reason I'm not going to cover it is I don't want this to get too heavy and this not open. Now this won't crack because we've got that piece left over. If you tend to have albums that crack, it could be the cardstock you're using, or it could be you're not leaving enough space. If you're using a heavier weight cardstock than the 65-pound, maybe try using, instead of having 3/16 of an inch, maybe try a 1/4 inch gap. Just practice that and see if that works. So I am going to put this aside and grab some paper, and we're going to make a hinge. Okay, for the hinge, from that 12-inch piece that I cut for the cover, I cut off a piece that's 4.5 inches tall by 12 inches wide. You may see on my scoreboard, I've already got marks in here. That's generally how I do my hinges. I usually start here, use a smaller piece of paper, but this one I'm going to start at the 3 3/8. And just so you know, my hinges will be a 1/2 inch, and there will be a 3/8 of a gusset in between. So we will start at 3 3/8. Where can I put this so you can see it here? That's okay. 3 3/8. Oh, 3 7/8. Don't read that. Say it's wrong. 3 7/8. 4 3/8. 4 3/4. 5 1/4. 5 3/4. 6 1/8. 6 5/8. 7 1/8. 7 1/2. 8. 8 1/2. So let me correct that in case you want to do a screenshot. Sorry for the oops. But anyhow, that is what we have. All right, so this is how I do my hinges. Get everything all ready here. All right, so first of all, let's make sure we see where the hinges are. So you've got a 1/2 inch hinge and a 1/2 inch hinge and a 3/8 gusset. Hinge, hinge, gusset, hinge, hinge, gusset, hinge, hinge. What we're going to do is we're going to fold in the center of the two hinges. So you've got 2 1/2 inch pieces, we'll fold in between them. But I'm going to turn it over so the bumpy side's facing up. I'm going to grab my bone folder and start folding from the bottom. So we won't fold at that first score line, but we'll fold at that second one. And when I'm folding, I'm making sure the sides are lined up. And then I'm going to burnish. And then I'm going to skip the next one, the next score line, skip the next one, because that'll be the gusset. And then we'll fold again in between those two hinges. Really, all you have to do is say to yourself, skip, skip, fold. And one more time, skip, skip, fold. So we have folded. And now the bumpy side's facing down, and you can see I wouldn't even call them mountains. They're just very little hills. So I'm going to hold this with my hand, hold my thumbs here. I'll pull this towards me. I'm starting with the hinge furthest away from me. And as you pull it, since we've scored it, that's going to want to come to a point. And I'm going to grab it and use my thumbs and my forefingers, fold it back and forth, and that will help train the paper to what we want to do. So I'll pull this towards me using this hinge to hold on to it, and again do the same thing. We're folding on the score line, so the paper should already know where to fold it. You're just sort of helping to train it. So now we've got those 4 hinges. No glue yet, but we will take care of that in a second. But to make sure that they go the way we want, I'm going to pull this all together. The gussets will stay down on the surface. The hinges will come up, and then I'll pull them all towards me And you'll know that it's good because all these lines are all parallel. And while I'm holding it with my fingers, I'll burnish it using the edge of my bone folder. Now I'm going to take them all and push them away from me. And take my bone folder and burnish. And then I'll start adding glue, but you can see it's trained. It knows where it wants, it knows you've told it where you want it to go. All right, so now what I'm going to do is take my glue and I'll turn this over so the gussets are facing up, and starting about 1/4 inch away, I'm going to zigzag the glue, and then I'll take a line and go as close to that top of just one side of the hinge. You don't need to do glue on both sides. And then I'm using this as a surface just so my mat doesn't get dirty. And I'll pinch this together. If you have long fingernails, I don't know what to tell you because I don't. I guess just try to use your the tips of your fingers. And so that is together. Now we'll do another one. Again, starting about 1/4 inch away, zigzag, and then go close to the top. And again, stop at, this one was a little closer, 1/8 of an inch away, and then I'll burnish. I'm going to burnish it again, but I'm just distributing that glue and making sure it sticks together. You can see some of the glue is, can you see? Yeah, you can see some of the glue is down there. Zigzag, go across. I'll do 2 at once. I'm being daring. And, you know, do one at a time, especially if you're in a dry climate or if you have a fan going on or if you work slow. Do one at a time, but I don't want this video to take 3 days. And burnish. Now, when I burnish, I start at the center and go out, and you may have seen glue seeped out, which is okay, but we're going to clean it up. And then I'll do it again here. I actually just opened up my glue, so it tends to come out a little faster when it's new. And then I'll fold them all away from me and burnish it again. And then there we go. I will have them all facing up. And there you can see our beautiful hinge. All right, now I'm going to take my cover and I am going to just eyeball this to see where it's going to go. So I think on this one you have about 1/4 inch all the way around. So 1/4 inch from the bottom of the cover to the bottom of the hinge system, the top of the hinge to the top, and 1/4 inch from the edge of this to about where the 2 covers come together. So just eyeball it so you have an idea, so when we put it down with the glue, you have an idea where you're going to go. All right, now I'm going to turn this upside down. I'm going to hold it in my hand very loosely, and I'm going to try to let this paper bend so I've got this channel right between where this wing piece ends and our first hinge begins. So we're going to go put glue in a line right next to that gusset. Now, if you go off a little bit, no big deal, because we're going to fill that all in. Trying not to go right exactly to the edge because some of this glue is going to seep out. So I'm staying about 1/4 inch away from the edge. Now I'm going to zigzag in that gusset. Now that looks like it's enough glue. Let me take my little pin. All right, so I'm going to hold it with the wings, and we know where it wants to go because we've already eyeballed it. I'm just going to put it down. I'm not going to push it down. Now I have an even number of hinges, which means an odd number of gussets, which makes things easy. We're going to start from the center. So making sure this stays even, if you want, hold it down. And I'm going to start from the top, put my finger down, and squish it to the center. And I'm going to start from the bottom and go up to the middle. So I'm going to go even pushing down at where the gusset ends and the hinge begins, even pushing down a little on the hinge. Now I'm going to take the hinge to the left and move it over to the right, and you will feel this whole paper shift, which is good. You want it to move. And I'm going to do the same thing. Start from the top, go to the middle, start from the bottom, go to the middle, and even get it on the hinge itself. So now I'll move that hinge over, I'll move that hinge over, and then we'll do the same with this last gusset. And then move this over. All right, so now I'm going to burnish. We're not done, but I want that to stay. Okay, now I'm going to make my hinges stand straight up. And I'll take this wing piece, because this is not glued down. We haven't put glue on this wing piece. There was glue right here, but none to hold it down. So we're going to take care of that. What we're going to do, I'm going to use this to point it out. We're going to put glue here on the chipboard and on the paper that's folded over. And we're going to put glue on this other side, right next to where that crevice is created by this two chipboards. But you can see that double-sided adhesive still showing. We want this paper to attach to the double-sided adhesive. There's no double-sided adhesive here, so we're going to add just a touch of glue in that channel. Not all the way to the end because I don't want it seeping out, but just about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of that channel. And then I'll add glue here. So now that I'm talking about it, let's actually do it. So I'll add glue here. It's on the chipboard. I'm going to add glue on that little crevice on the top and on the bottom. You don't have to add it where the double-sided adhesive is because we want that actually to stick. And then I'm going to do a line of glue on our chipboard to about 1/4 of an inch from where this is going to end. I'm going to add a little glue here just to make sure it sticks, and then I'm going to add glue here. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to be adding other paper on top of this eventually, so it's going to stick. All right, now I'm going to take my bone folder and burnish from the top to the middle, the bottom to the middle, and then I'll take this edge of the bone folder and burnish again. Now I'm going to take this rounded edge and just gently going back and forth in that little crevice between where the hinge chipboard and the back cover chipboard meet. I'm going to go back and forth a couple of times. Now, you don't want to push too much on this because this paper might tear. If it does, just take another piece and cover it. But now I'm going to burnish here so that back cover stays. So now this piece is not, I'm going back and forth while I talk. This piece is not attached to the double-sided adhesive. To do that, we'll take this cover and fold it. And while we fold it, we'll go back and forth gently several times. If any glue seeps out, clean it up. But go back and forth several times, and you'll see when it attaches. Now I'm just going to let this dry. I'm not going to force it down. I'm not going to force it up. I'm just going to let this dry, and we'll work on this side. Now I'm going to let it dry flat. So I'll move all the hinges over to the opposite side. Take my glue, zigzag it, whoops. Go in this little crevice here. Go zigzag it here. Oops, I wanted to get along the edge here. And then I'll use my bone folder and burnish and burnish. And get in that crevice. I don't know a better word for that. What other word would you use? Now, because we've got glue in here, that's why you don't want to push too hard. You don't want the paper to tear. Just a little bit at a time. And then I'm going to burnish all this. And then I'll hold it. And open the book, or close the book. Close the book. And fold all these up, close the book. And then I'm just going to let this dry. Once we get back to it, we're going to make the base pages. When we get back to it, we're going to burnish this some more. But for now, we're just going to let it dry. Okay. I like it. It's beautiful. All right, let's get the papers ready to make our pages. All right, we're going to make the easiest pages ever. You'll need 4 pieces that are 7 inches by 4.5. Put the 7-inch side at the top and score at 3.5 for all 4 of those, 3.5. These pages are going to be sealed on the bottom, but they will be open on the top so we can have a tag in the top. And then we'll add other pieces to it to make them, I don't know, just add a couple of more flips. All right, I'm going to burnish. On the score lines. And then we're going to add these to the book. Okay, I'm going to put those aside for a second, and while I was cutting these, this all is dry, so I'm going to burnish again and fold it. Burnish and fold. Alrighty. Okay, now I'm starting from the back of the book. I'm going to take the page. So I'm going to take my glue. I'm going to start at the back, add a little bit of glue onto this hinge, just staying at the top half of the hinge. And then I'm going to take this page, line it up, pull it away about 1/8 of an inch from the hinge, and line up the hinge. Make sure that this bottom piece is nice and parallel with the bottom of our book cover, and then I'll burnish. And then I'll add some more glue here and along the bottom. And then I will fold and burnish. Oops, a little bit of glue seeping out there. And there we go. And then we'll do the same with the rest of the, I don't need quite as much glue, so I'm just trying to be a little less generous. Once you put on that back piece, then you can move this a little bit to make sure it's even on the bottom and on the hinge. And then once we've done that, go ahead and add some glue here. And add glue there, and burnish. So see, easy page, easy schmeezy. Put this on, we can move it, make sure it's even with our other pages, add more glue. And burnish. And one more. Oops. And then I'll start at the back and burnish all of our pages. And then there we go. Yay. All right. I'm going to add a couple of features to the book. So I have a couple of scraps, and I'm just using what I have. So our pages are, again, 4.5 by 3.5. So I've got a couple of pieces of scraps. I'm going to cut down to 4.5. I'll grab my scoreboard. And with the 3-inch side, there were 3 inches, 3 now by 4.5, score at 1/2 inch on both of these. Going to just miter from the score line up, and burnish and fold on that score line. And I'm going to just adhere this onto the page, not on the hinge. So one will go on the left side of the page and one will go on the right side of the page. So there we go, page like that. What else can we do? We could add a pocket. So I'm looking at my scrap papers that I have here. So again, that's 3.5. So I would want a 4.5 size piece by, let's do 2 inches. 2 inches by 4.5. Get out our scoreboard. We're going to score it on the 2 short sides and 1 long side. So with the 4.5 side at the top, score at 1/2, rotate, score at 1/2, rotate, score at 1/2. Going to cut it right across the X that we created by those 2 score lines. I'll miter it there, miter it there. And there is a pocket. I'm going to glue this down with the bottom first. Oops, get over here, you. And then I'll glue the sides too. What else do we want to do? Let us make a little flap at the side. I'll take this little scrap. And what size is the scrap? It's 2.5 by 3. I'm going to put the 3 inside and score at 1/2. Actually, I have 2 of those. I'm going to do it to both of those. And let's go to another page in the book. And I'm going to add this on the left page to the left-hand side. And on the right page to the right-hand side. All right, let's see. We've got some more paper. I have a 5-inch piece by 4.5. So let us score. I'm making it up as I go, can you tell? Gonna score it with the 5-inch side at the top, score it 1/2 inch. And let's score it at 3.5. 1/2 inch, 3.5. Uh-oh, I did this the wrong way. So I won't use that one. So I'm gonna miter here, miter here. Fold on our score line. I'm gonna attach this to the page. I'm gonna put it on the left-hand side, over to the left. Make sure it's all even. And then we've got this little flap. You could do a couple of things with it. You could add paper here and put glue there and it'll be a tuck spot. You could do it this side and it would be a tuck spot here. Or you could just have it a flap. You could make it a little pocket. I'm going to leave it for right now until I figure out what I want to do with it. All right, I've got this page. I'm going to cut this down to 4.5 since I've already scored it. And actually I'm going to cut off this one little. So it's actually 3.5 by 4.5. Fold. I'll miter this corner. Am I going too fast? I'm just using a bunch of scraps to add different elements to the page. So I'm just using what I have, giving you some ideas. I'm going to put that one here, so it'll be opposite that page. All right, now I have the back cover, which is going to be 4 inches by 5 inches. So I'm going to cut a piece of cardstock that is 5 inches by 2. No, 5 by 2.5. And I'll save that piece. And a piece that's 5 by 4. Grab my scoreboard. The 5 by 2.5 with the 5-inch side at the top. I'll score it at a 1/2 inch. Rotate it so the 2.5 sides at the top, score it 1/2 inch. Rotate it again so the 5-inch sides at the top, score it 1/2 inch. We'll miter that in a second. And this piece again, that is 4 by 5. You know what? I'm gonna score it at 1 inch. What? I mean, we could have made it 1/2 inch score smaller, but I didn't. I'm gonna miter this one whole big piece. And here I'm gonna miter, cutting across the X created by our score lines. We'll miter those 2 top pieces. And then miter that again. See if I can get all that into the trash this time. And I'll fold and burnish on my score lines. All right, so here I'm going to add this, and then go as far over to the right hand side as possible, because you want to stay away from this fold in the paper. So I'm going to put that down. I'm going to grab a piece of Scotch tape. And put that down at the bottom. That way when I get paper, it won't get hung up on there. And then I'll add glue here. And put that down and burnish. Okay. And then this piece with, before I put it down, I'm going to take my corner rounder and round the bottom. And with that 1-inch tab, we're going to take and glue to the top. So it didn't have to be a 1-inch tab, but I just cut it too big. So I'll put that at the top again, keeping it justified over to the right hand side so you're not anywhere near the fold of it there on the left. Hard to tell when I have it upside down, but there we have a pocket with a flap. And the reason I wanted it up a little bit is because if I add that library style closure, I wanted there to be enough room. I'm not going to do anything with this because I don't want anything to mess up with that. So let's go over what we have. We've got the book, which measures, again, 4 by 5. The pages are 3.5 by 4.5. Our first page has 2 flaps. We'll probably add a magnet. I might add a cut apart or something. I really don't have too many cut aparts left. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. The next page has a pocket and nothing here. The next page has, it's basically a 2.5 by 2.5 inch square. This page has a flap with what could be a tuck spot. Probably it'll be a tuck spot. I'm not sure yet. And this has a flap. And then here we have nothing on this page, but this page will open like that. So that is our cute little quick mini album. I'm going to decorate it and show you what I've done. I'm going to give you some measurements for cutting the paper. So I'm going to use a couple of layers for the front and back outside covers. So I cut cardstock 3 7/8 by 4 7/8 because of course the book is 4 by 5. And then I'm going to put the pattern paper down. I think I'll do that for the back, but I'll do this for the front. This is 3 5/8 by 4 5/8. When I put this down to see how it's going to look, I feel like it was a little bland. It sort of blended into each other. So I'm going to ink a little bit. I'm using a hickory smoke, and I'm going to just go around the outside of my cardstock. I tried to choose a color that was similar to the darker color that's on this paper. So by inking, it will help. And then I'm also going to ink the pattern paper. Now I chose something that was pretty, nothing with too much of a pattern, because I will be adding some, I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm going to add. I haven't figured it out yet. But for the back cover, I'm not going to do the inking. I'm just doing that for the front and doing that for the spine. The spine, by the way, so when we fold over the spine, if I cut this 1/8 of an inch smaller, it's going to look too small for the paper. So I cut this the size of the chipboard. So it's 1.5, but I do need to cut it down as far as top and bottom. So 1.5 by 4 7/8, and then this piece is 1 3/8 by 4 3/8. So I am just going to add glue to this. I did ink up the spine. Did I mean to? Oh well. So that will go down like that. And then I will put this on. Oh, that's right. I'm going to have this for the back cover. I just thought this was such a happy pattern. So that is the back cover. Now, I guess I could have told you, if you wanted to use ribbon as a closure, you would have added it underneath here. I got glue on my finger, so there's glue on the spine, but no big deal because we're going to cover it. Yep. All right, and then for the cover of the book, you know, you can always cut this and flip it over so you've got, I don't have any right now, like the flower at the top, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have it, and as I say that, I'm wondering if I should have done that. I can always add it. What I'm trying to say is you could have half of it with the flower at the top and half of it with the wood at the bottom. But I'm just going to leave it for now. I can always add the flowers at the top if I want to. When I'm putting on the front cover, I want to make sure it sticks real well, so I add a little more glue than I would normally add. And burnish. Alright, so that's the front cover, and use the same measurements for the inside front cover. The back cover, of course, is going to be a little different, the back and side cover, because we have elements there. And then for the pages, so the pages are 3.5 by 4.5. So I would cover them with 3 3/8 by 4 3/8. So I'm going to cut all of my paper to fit that, of course, adjusting it if there's flaps. I just cut it 1/8 of an inch smaller and have a 1/16 of an inch border all around it. So that's what I'm going to do to decorate the book. And that's it. I mean, it's pretty simple. If you want to see detailed walkthroughs on these albums, I'll put them in the description box so you can check it out. But use the paper in your stash. You don't have to use scraps. You can open up a whole new pad to make these cute little mini albums. They make cute little gifts. You can add pictures of the kids, even little kids, and give it to them and let them have fun looking at all the family photos. That's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fabulous day.